Hello, friends, and welcome to Rise Up in Real Estate, where we are on a quest. We are looking for the extra in the ordinary. And I'm Tad Fulford, and I will be your host on this journey where we will take an honest look at what makes ordinary people extraordinary. Exactly how can we be extra in our personal and our professional lives? In this season of the Rise Up in Real Estate adventure, there will be a monthly rhythm, meaning each month we will have 4 unique episodes. In one episode, we'll tackle a pressing current real estate industry thought. In another, we will chat with a local difference maker in the real estate space. For our 3rd episode, we will host a respected national thought leader. And finally, we will have a 4th bonus and surprise episode. And in each episode, we will be digging into not only what those people think, but who those people are. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll laugh some, you'll be challenged some, you will get inspired some, and if we are lucky, maybe even figure out a way or two you can rise up in your own life and be the best human that you can be. So the challenge is, let's all rise up. Hello, Rise Up Nation. We're here for another edition of Rise Up in Real Estate, and I have a special guest, not just a special guest today, coming to us all the way from Denver, Colorado at the RE/MAX headquarters. I'm lucky enough today to have a guy that I've been watching for, probably about 15 years, work his way around the real estate world, and we're lucky to have him now as the president and CEO of RE/MAX. I want to introduce you to my friend, Mr. Nick Bailey. Nick, thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Special guest. Now, see, I'm going to have to go back, or people put in the comments, does he say special about everyone, or we need to investigate this?
Most people get one special, just one.
Well, I feel honored. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
You know me well enough to know that I'm like a people person, and most of the time when I'm doing the intro, I do say, like, I'm so excited to have this guest, and I've had people call me out like, let's be honest, Tad, you're excited about everything. It's not everybody you're excited about, so stop saying that. So no, special guest. And I do appreciate you being on here. I feel like our listeners are lucky today because they get to hear from someone that sits in an office that gets to experience and see things that we don't see every day as agents and operators. So I'm excited to get your perspective on some things. I think it's an interesting time in our world. You know, we talk about market or don't talk about the market. I just think it's changed the last 24 months, and I appreciate your perspective. But tell me a little bit about your journey, Nick. Like, where were you born? And I don't know if I know that. And then kind of how did you get to where you are today briefly?
Where am I born? Gosh, we're going back a long way. Are you sure we have time for all this?
28 years, oh, right?
My gosh. Actually, my birth certificate says Wyoming. So just that way, north of the border. But I lived there for a very short time. I lived in Montana for a few years. Everybody knows where that is. Yellowstone, and the show has made it kind of a cool thing. And then moved here to Denver and lived here for a number of years, went back to Wyoming and graduated from high school, started dating my wife in 8th grade. So, I mean, it was cool that I moved back and we met, and went to Montana State. And then I returned here 22 years ago. So I'm just back and forth, but pretty much Denver's home.
That's amazing. So when you probably, those of you that have met his wife, Hannah, probably when you met her in 8th grade, you were like, I better not let this one go because this is probably the best shot I got right here. She's amazing, right?
Yeah, correct. She's a pretty neat lady, and we've been fortunate. We have 2 kids together, and we were talking about, I think we've been together now 32 years and married 24. So that's an amazing couple of numbers that I can't believe, but we're incredibly blessed.
That's amazing. She's like at all of our conventions, the listeners should know that she's like every time Mandy and I see her, we're like, look at the fashion statement she's making. Like, I can barely keep up with fashion, as you can, all my friends can tell. But she's always looks to the nines, and very proud to have her representing us, and you too. So you said you have 2, how old are your boys now?
Boys now are 18 and 14.
Anybody in college yet, or is he going next year?
Just started to go this semester. So just dipping that foot into the first semester of college. So whole new world.
18 and 14. Okay, so tell me, have you always been a real estate brat? Have you been in real estate since college?
Pretty much, yes. I mean, what was kind of unique, I like to say, Tad, that I started in real estate even before college, because I had the pleasure of buying two commercial retail buildings when I was 17. I was a junior in high school, and they were kind of on the main street. I lived in small town America. And so I think that was my first forte. And then when I went to college, I bought my first house when I was 18. And I didn't know what I was doing. So if your listeners are sitting here, it's not like, wow, how'd this guy know how to buy property in high school and right after? Dumb luck, I have to say. But it was absolutely my start to the industry. I just didn't know it. And then I did get licensed when I was 21. And so I've been licensed in real estate ever since, about 27 years.
It's pretty neat that people don't know this, but you're, at the top of the food chain for us at Remax, and you are, you're an operator, like you've been in our shoes before. So when you speak, I think that commands a different level of respect. So I appreciate that. And I don't know, can you still buy, property under 18 or 21 now? I don't even know the answer to that.
Me personally, can you buy property at the under the age of 18?
Yeah.
No. You couldn't then, and you can't now.
That's what I was getting at. Well, you're an entrepreneur then. That just says you're a true entrepreneur, and I appreciate that.
It was all done legally. Everybody, you heard it here. No, I had very supportive parents. They were entrepreneurs. They were not in real estate, but I grew up, my dad worked for an oil company, the corporate side for a number of years, but they always had small businesses. And so I think that's kind of where the work ethic came from. I dusted shelves, scrubbed floors, did all kinds of things that parents make their kids do when they own businesses. And as a result, my parents would, like on my properties, my initial, the two, they put it in their name. And then as soon as I turned 18, we did a quick claim deed and it moved it over to mine. So it was all done on the up and up, but I did have to use their signature to get it done.
Yeah.
And they were always real supportive on that.
It's kind of amazing that you had the foresight to do that even that way. That's pretty impressive. And so I remember I've been with Remax about, I think it's 12 years now. Mandy's been with almost 20. And I remember seeing you at R4 when I first started. You were at Remax, and then you weren't at Remax, and now you're back at Remax. So tell me, I know you love to tell these stories, and we're going to make some people happy, some people sad. I don't know, but tell me how this all worked. Who did you work for along the way, Nick, and what have you learned, and how'd you get back to us?
Yeah, good question. Well, when I started as an agent, I started with one of the major brands that's still out there today. And I was there for a short period of time, opened a real estate office with a partner. And we did that for about 5 years before I actually came here to Remax headquarters and worked in the regional operations and on the front lines. So I knew Mandy back then and had worked with a number of owners throughout our system for about 11 and a half years. And then I left Remax for a period of 7. They call it my sabbatical. And I went to a company called Market Leader. They were a SaaS-based platform for online leads, websites, lead generation, CRMs. But shortly after I got there, Trulia announced that they were acquiring us. And so I went through that acquisition funnel. We all know what happened with Trulia. And after we closed that deal, then Zillow came in. And so I was on their executive team and led industry. And so great experience. And I know on stage, I'd love to talk about this. And some people quietly clap, some boo me. I mean, when you say the portal words, but it was really, really, really good experience, especially to bring back in this role. And then before I had a pit stop before coming here, I was recruited to be CEO of Century 21 Worldwide. And so, of course, in our network, I get some boos and some applause. I mean, it just depends on where you've been. But they were based in New Jersey. I never left Denver. And so I had 2 young boys and Hannah, of course. And so we decided that this was home and we were going to stay here. And that commute got long way to the office. And so ironically, I got a phone call after I had resigned there and came back, got a call from Dave Linear, the founder, and had lunch with him and the CEO at the time, Adam Contos. They said, would you consider coming back and leading this brand? And it wasn't in my plans. I spent 11 and a half years here. But all the stars aligned and it worked out. And so I've been back just over 4 years.
So that's quite a journey. And we do joke with you when you're standing up there, and I know you use that for comedic relief, but I think the experience that you had, didn't that lend you to be a better leader where you are now, do you think?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Especially working in, the tech and consumer world and a time when I was the connectivity piece as the leader of the industry team for Zillow and Trulia to try to help the industry understand what they were not. Were they the boogeyman? Were they out to, steal all of our children in the middle of the night? Whatever that is. But that was an awesome experience. And it was interesting that they really compared themselves to other tech companies, even outside the industry. They just happened to have customers that were inside the real estate industry. So absolutely great experience. But it was fun to stand on stage and say, here's what people thought, here's the tomatoes that they wanted to throw, and here's what we were really doing. And sometimes they were very different.
Yeah. Isn't that always, that's a lot of times that's always the case, where there's the story that people, once you're in an organization, you know what it's all about. And right. We don't have to dig too deep into it. I just want to say from our perspective, we're proud to have you back. And I think
Thank you.
You've led in I don't know who knows what the future holds, but being under your tutelage so far has been fun, and I hope it continues that way. I think like you guys are listening to this, and here I am. I just made a phone call to the president and CEO of RE/MAX and said, "Hey, would you be on our show?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I'm like, "Uh-oh, now I gotta put a collared shirt on and act like I know we're in coastal South Carolina, by the way, for the listeners that are hearing this. I wanted to ask this, Nick, so this is the guy that. How often do you get phone calls from the major networks? Like, I've seen you on like real TV before. Like, they call you as an industry leader and ask you questions like, what's the market going to do? How often do you play that role? Do you get to do that very much?
Yeah, quite a bit. And I like to say I'm the puppet. It's really more that I am honored to be able to lead a network of over 145,000 RE/MAX agents spanning over 110 countries. And so just based on our sheer size and scale, it does get us a lot more attention. And so I just happen to be the talking head, but a fair amount. I just got one before I stepped in here to start this, that Bloomberg's been trying to secure an interview for about 3 weeks, and I've had travel conflicts, but I think we got one coming up in the next 2 weeks with them. And Fox called last week and wanted another interview, and I happened to be out of town for one of our events. So I try to work in as many as I can, because we are so close to so many markets. And I think that, as many of your listeners realize, real estate is hyper local. And you hear these headlines and you hear the talking heads like myself that are on these programs like Fox or CNBC or Bloomberg. And they always just talk at the national level. And people say, well, my market's different here. And your market, as compared to, and you guys span a decent footprint, you go 20 miles down the road and things can be a little different in terms of the real estate market. And so I think for us, because of our footprint, we're able to speak to the overall general side of the market. But some of these interviews get right down into the scale of, say, our top 53 markets that we do a housing report on. And so we get hyper local in some of these interviews. And I think that's what people enjoy seeing.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that I can ask you this. No one you said talking head. And I think that doesn't give you enough credit, because I feel like a lot of times the news is that. But when they bring in an expert, I mean, you say I'm at the top of the thing. But nobody hands you a script, right? You answer questions based on experience, you study a lot, don't you?
I do. And I'm a big stats person. And so I just have kind of a Rolodex that I can flip through. And that helps me in these interviews. But they are interesting. You go into a room and you're looking into a lens. Half the time I can't even see the person that I'm talking with. I have an earpiece in, and in the next 4 to 7 minutes, I have no idea what they're going to ask. And so you certainly, I try to do as much homework as I can, and I know what the headlines are, and they'll generally follow some of those headlines of what's out there. But they'll definitely throw you some curveballs that you have no idea what's coming. So I like it because it keeps me on my toes too.
Yeah. Is there I was going to ask you 2 questions based on that. Is there a stat that right now you're spending a lot of time thinking about or talking about, something that sticks out for you, since you're my stats guy? And I didn't ask you ahead of time. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, we'll call you Liz Clamming on the Clamming Countdown. I mean, whatever. Well, the one right now is this near 8% of interest rates. And of course, what it's doing is, I just looked at our national housing report this morning, that inventory is up 7%, sales down 18%, but we still are in such a low inventory market that even year to date, now I just said real estate's local, and I'm going to hit a national stat with you. But the average prices are up 3.8% even from last year. And so until inventory really goes up, I mean, really, really goes up, we're not going to see a lot of pressure on pulling those prices down. And so people ask all the time, is now a good time to buy? And I always say real estate is all about timing, but it's not the timing of the headlines that everyone reads. People say, are you timing the market, interest rate, all these different things. As you well know, timing is about when is it good for you? Do you have the right job, the right down payment? Can you afford the payment? Is it you're getting married, having kids? I just went to a relative's wedding this weekend, and they just bought a home. Well, their timing was they're newlyweds and they want to get into a home. It had nothing to do with interest rates were less 2 years ago. Will they go down in 24? It was, we have enough down payment and we can afford the house payment. And so we're going to buy. And so I think that'll continue to happen because that's what drives the overall real estate business. In the meantime, we just have a lot of people that are in love with their refi rate, and it'll take a couple of years to flush through that.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the biggest stumbling block we have here is people are married to the rate they have, but not people that are in life transitions. A lot of times you've talked about this before that, and I appreciate that about you, Nick, because
they're dating the rate. They're not married, Tad. They're married to the house, but they're dating the rate.
I'm kind of over that. I've heard that enough. I don't even know what that means. But what I appreciate, it'd be real easy for me if I were in your role to get so big picture that you forget exactly what you just said, that real estate is local and personal. Like your circumstance different than mine, and everyone's is different. And you have to spend the time finding out what the circumstance is. Because people bought and I don't mean to lighten the fact that rates are 8 and they used to be 3, but they were 18% and people were buying. Prices are higher now, but people buy. That newlywed couple is going to do it right now because right now is important. If you wait for the perfect time, and when is that? Maybe.
Yeah, it's when you're ready. And you know what? They're married, newly married, and they bought a 2-bedroom house, but wait till they possibly decide to expand a family and have children. And you know this pretty well. You've got a couple of children, a few. And so the minute they have twins or something like that, they'll probably be out there looking, saying, we need another bedroom. And so that rest assured that I know in all my lifetime and my nearly 3 decades in this business, that's been the number one driver. And I think it will continue to be. And you talk about rates. I went back and studied rates just over my lifetime. From the time I was born, rates had not gone under 9.5% until the month after I graduated high school. And so for nearly 20 years, the first 20 years of my life, 18, rates were over 9.5%. And guess what happened? People still bought and sold real estate. And so it's just getting our mentality right of how we work through. And that's why I think, by the way, buyers and sellers need top-notch professional agents today, way more than they needed them 2 years ago. Buyers need to understand how to navigate the mortgage space. They need to understand what options are available, the all-in-one mortgage, some of the adjustable rate that maybe people are afraid of, have been in the past, but they shouldn't be. All of those type of things, a great lender and a great agent can make the difference on whether or not you're a buyer today.
Yeah. Do you time block, Nick? Like, how do you have time to study? I imagine you're on interviews and traveling all the time. When do you make time to study?
That's a good question. I move at a real quick pace. In fact, I came in today and someone said, "Oh, were you up at midnight washing your car?" Some people saw on social media a couple weeks ago. It was about 12:30 at night because I hand wash my cars and I don't mow the lawn that late because the neighbors don't really care for my mower. But I don't know. I just move at a very quick pace. And so anytime I just grabbed an article this morning, I had about a 10-minute break before I was walking into a meeting. And I quick read a 3-page article on some new stats in housing. And so it's not a time block. I know I do time block certain items in my day, but I'm not a repetition person. Like I don't wake up at the same time every day. I don't eat the same things. My workouts are at different times, sometimes 7 a.m, sometimes I go at noon. I just, because of the different pace that comes at me and the interview requests and I just like to adjust. And so I'm not a routine person. And I think that helps me weave in some of those things.
And would you consider yourself, is this just a job for you? Or are you pretty passionate about, who picks up an article and reads it in 10 minutes? Your boss didn't tell you to do that. That's just part of what you are, right? You're seeking that. You love it.
I love this business. I tell everyone I was a good kid. I have to give that disclaimer before I tell the story. But when I was growing up here in Colorado, the community where we lived at the time, had a lot of new construction. And so my love for this business started in architecture. I just loved homes. I still do to this day. And the old super lock boxes with the code?
Right.
I figured out how you push the button real light and it will fall into the 3-digit code. I could get in a super lockbox at 10 years old, like in 30 seconds. And so I would self-tour new construction homes. Nobody lived there. There was never any damage. I was just wandering through, looking at them myself. I think what's the time frame and what I can be charged?
The statute is over.
The statute of limitations are gone on breaking into super lockboxes. But what I realized is the business turned from architecture to people. And having that ability to connect with all kinds of different people, it formulated a love for this business. And so I do really, really like it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things in our whole year is when we go to R4 and we get to hear near the beginning of the year, during first quarter, we get to hear from you live, kind of your State of the Union address. And I love it because it's, I know how much time you take and how many conversations and articles. I just feel like it's worth listening to, and I love it. If you live or own property along the coast of South Carolina, you probably need insurance. We Insure Advocates is a locally owned independent agency with industry-leading service support. Our team of customer-centric agents can explain your coverage options and help you craft an insurance program that fits your needs and budget. Data-driven for better value, people-led for better service. That's the difference of we. For all of your property insurance needs, please find us at weinsureadvocates.com or call us at 843-491-6990. Tell me, if you had to, and I won't hold you to this, what is the crystal ball? Like, where do we go the next 12, 24 months from your perspective, where you sit and the things you hear every day?
It's the number one question I get asked. And not this year, but the last year, my forecast in January, I saw the video, was agents, be careful. I think some of you might be going from burnout to broke, because the reality is a lot of agents were order takers and they were just trying to keep up. But now let's crystal ball today. One, for agents, get with your sphere. They've been ignored for a couple of years because agents have been so busy. And top producers always say repeats and referrals drive their business. And so that's number one. Number two, crystal ball is, and I'm already seeing part of it, so this is maybe Tad cheating a little bit, but agents are right-sizing their expenses, as they should. Cut back on the things that you need to. But what's the number one category that agents cut? Marketing. But yet, I always tell everyone, go back to when you first got your real estate license. What's the first thing you spent or invested in? Business cards, yard signs, digital assets, websites. You had to tell the world, hi, I'm in real estate. And so even 10, 15 years later, people are in the business, they start getting invisible. And there are hundreds of thousands of agents that have been licensed less than 3 years. People were barely starting to see that they were even in the business. They thought they were doing great because the market artificially upheld them a little bit, and now they're getting very quiet on their marketing. Those folks aren't going to make it. You've got to be in line with your sphere, and you have to be marketing in a cost-effective way. And I know this isn't a Remax commercial, but that's where we as an organization use our scale to make our marketing assets available to agents. And a lot of it's free, because this is the time they need to take advantage of the brand affiliation. And so any agent out there, no matter who you're with, those are the type of things that I think are important. I think that the market in 24 is going to look very similar to 23. Now, this is where everyone hits disconnect. Nick is not very popular with his crystal ball. But a couple of things driving that. We still don't have inflation where we want it, truly. And so it's not as if there's going to be some big major decline in rates, at least for the remainder of this year. But as we go into 24, I could see rates cooling off in the second half of next year and coming down a bit. Plus, we're going through a major election year. And you know what happens in major presidential election years? They try to keep the headline on some of the things that are positive, but don't want to rock the economy too crazy. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of some of the similar attributes of 23 that we're going to see in 24. Now, one difference that I do see is the spring market of 24. I think we're going to see our move up buyers come back a little more than we did in 23. Not a lot more, but a little more. Those people that are in love with their rates, 90% of people have rates under 5%. Of those 90, half are under 3.5. They need a life event. They need twins. They need a divorce. They need to relocate to family before they're going to make some move. So I think we'll see a little bit of a plug in the spring market, and then it wouldn't surprise me if rates cool off toward the end of next year. But between now and the next 12 months, it's those that are loud, using their sphere, and marketing themselves that are going to win.
Yeah, I love that. We talk a lot about your sphere and your past clients, and so all these people spending millions of dollars on leads, and every lead that comes across in somebody's portal probably has bought and sold real estate in their past. And if their agent would have stayed in touch, they wouldn't have been a lead in a portal. But I love that if you keep in touch with that group of people, you know when they're going to go through those life events. You're part of it, and you're a natural choice. I love that. And your friend, I know you have a great friend named Jared James. I guess you guys are still friends, but he says visibility trumps ability. And he added something to it this year. He added something to it this year that I like. He says, invisibility is your responsibility. And I think that's one of the main reasons I moved from another brand to Remax when I did 12 years ago, is because you don't ever have to explain your way around it. And that visibility for an agent is important. I think you can go away really fast in the world of social media. I mean, somebody that does nothing but is loud on social media seems like they do more business than the people that are not there. But it's not true.
I agree with you 1,000%. And yes, I see Jared. And what's today? Monday. Day after tomorrow, actually, I'm spending 4.5 hours in the car with him driving somewhere. So he and I are speaking at. So anyway, hopefully any of you know Jared, you'll feel for me. 4.5 hours in the car with the guys.
Listen, you don't get a word in there. I mean, there's no way you get a word in. You just put your headphones on and say, talk to me. All right. I appreciate that. Now, guys, you just got the crystal ball from somebody who clearly, I mean, he just threw stats at you that were not just from the top of his head. I mean, they're embedded in his heart, and I appreciate that. What would you say, and I might have just segued right into it, I always ask all my guests what their superpower is. Like, you're brought to this planet, in my opinion, to fulfill some mission, some need out there, some niche. What is your superpower, Nick? What do you bring to the table?
I don't know. Good question. Before I answer that, though, let me also say a little bit on the crystal ball. I know it was kind of a brief overview.
No, go ahead.
Some agents may hear that crystal ball and say, doesn't sound like a very exciting year, and I'm not real excited about our market right now. And I would say complete opposite. This is the time when you can steal business out of your competitors' hands. You really can. Because there are people that are saying, okay, I had a good couple of years. The market isn't what it is. So I'm sitting back a little bit and we'll kind of take some of the business. I'll tell you what, I've heard story after story. I was just at our elite retreat last week, which is agents that earn in excess of 500,000. Like the average is over $1 million. These are top producers, hundreds of them, 450 of them in a room, sharing ideas. And some of them are saying they're having a better year this year than last. And it's not just because of the market they're in. They're saying, you know what, that agent that was down the street that did 6 deals last year, no longer here. That person that did 8 deals is now down to 4. And so they're leveraging the competitive advantages that they have with their tenure in the business and their transactions. And so the business is out there. You just have to search for it a little differently. So I look at these markets and I keep telling our network, this is your market to win. So you can get excited about this crystal ball. It just depends on what you want to do with it. So I wanted to say that.
No, let me follow up if you don't mind. What I love about that is that's not Pollyanna, because you've seen it happen before, right? Am I right? I mean, you've said that and seen it happen in past markets. So for you to say it might happen again, you're speaking from experience. It's not just like, let's just hang on to this guy's. He's not just Don Quixote riding through the mountains, like singing a song and everybody's following you. This is based on experience.
It is. And also from when I was an agent, I remember I lived in a very cold climate. December and January, agents didn't work. December and January were my 2 best months, generally speaking, when I sold real estate, because I knew I wasn't competing against near as many people. But then March, April rolled around, and here came the ants out of the anthill, right? And so I think it's just all the attitude and the lens that you look through. So yeah, definitely not just trying to be a cheerleader and rah-rah. I just know that 1, people are going to buy and sell real estate no matter what. And 2, it's going to be the agents that are out there marketing that are the ones that get it done.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Superpower. I don't have any superpowers. Well, my wife and I talk about, we're very much into philanthropy and anything related to children. So I think that when I think about the much bigger picture, that I've been given talents in this world, in this industry, to do okay, to hopefully impact a lot of children. And so we have a number of children's foundations that we support. So I've always said that that's the reason I work is, and will retire, is someday that we want to help a lot of kids. My wife was an elementary music teacher. And so there's kind of a little bit of teaching background in both of us. So that's like the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I would say short term, one of my superpowers or strengths is being able to speak on a big stage. Public speaking is, as you know, most people fear it more than death. And whatever crazy DNA strand got twisted together with me, I really enjoy it. And so the ability to motivate and help people, entrepreneurs, like, it's lonely out there in this business. Agents are lonely. Broker owners are lonely because it's lonely at the top when you're running your own deal as an entrepreneur. And so to be able to offer some little helping hand in that process, it's probably my superpower that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, and I would agree that that's a good one for you. I appreciate you talking about the personal side of it too, because it's hard to, Mandy and I feel the same way. We don't talk about the charitable part of our lives because somebody's going to look at it like you're boasting. But when you give back at the level and degree that you do, I appreciate you sharing that. And he is a natural on stage, and that comes from somebody that longs to be on the stage also. So I relate to what you said. That time I got an opportunity to sit with Wayne Brady at R4 that year because of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Blew my mind. I was starstruck, and you do a great job.
He is so cool. He is a really talented guy and quick. I think I'm quick. No, I'm like slow compared to that guy.
No, those guys are just it's like they have the same brain on that show. It's crazy to me. Okay, another question, and you read a lot of stuff, and I always ask, it'll help our audience a little bit. What is a good book? Like if you said to me, you got to read this right now, have you got one? Is there a good one out? It doesn't have to be real estate related. Like you said, it could be personal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you want just one? Or I can give a couple because then I can give
a couple.
So
a couple's good.
I'm not an avid reader. People ask me this all the time. I'm envious of people that are just avid readers because I think they're some of the most well-rounded, well-spoken, and smartest people I know are very well read. And so I'm very envious of people that are very well read. I'm not. But I will tell you a couple of my favorites. One of them is The Nordstrom Way, and the other is The Gold Standard. That's the one by Ritz-Carlton. And what I love about them is it's the empowerment that they've given employees to create an experience with the customer. I think the word customer service means mediocre. And I think today we're all looking for a personalized experience, no matter what we do, when we travel, when we shop, when we dine, anything hospitality related. But I just think there are so many good stories about when you anticipate the unexpected needs of your customer and you deliver on it before they even know it. And I'll give you one example in real estate, since this is a major real estate audience. I had a story from someone that they talked about. This agent gave the same standard closing gift every time. And it was, very nice and a fairly expensive, nice closing gift, but it didn't matter. If you were Tad and Mandy, if you were Nick and Hannah, like the same kind of thing arrived. But what was interesting is when this couple went through this house, they were talking about how much they loved the nook off the kitchen area because it had great big windows and the sun. And the wife was big into yoga. And she said, gosh, I could just picture myself like doing yoga in this room in the morning and all of that. Well, as we're talking about these personalized experiences, this agent actually changed course. And instead of the typical gift, they were paying attention when they were showing the home. And when they got to the house after closing, there was a yoga mat and like a Yeti water bottle. And it was a personalized experience based on that buyer. And so some agents do really well at that. But sometimes if you just listen to the cues, and that's what those two books have in common, is you are hyper aware of people, you're in tune, and you're listening to those clues. that you can deliver an unexpected experience or need, and you'll have a client for life. And you and I share a love for the Savannah Bananas, the great team out of Georgia, the baseball team that we were just talking about recently. And that's what they're all about, is creating that experience, because there's a difference between a client and a fan. A client is transactional, a fan is forever. Right. And those two books will teach you how to get fans, not clients.
Yeah, I remember the last time I heard you speak, you mentioned to us the phrase, you wouldn't believe what happened. And I don't have that written down anywhere. It's just stuck in my head since you said it. And I think about that when I go to restaurants or when I go fly in a plane or whatever. If I ever say to Mandy, we joke about it, like, you wouldn't believe what so-and-so did. Sometimes it's negative, but it is a presence when you have a great experience like that. I love that. And you know what I appreciate about you, Nick, that I've learned today on our show. Well, I've learned that the time has run out and I need to honor that for you, but you're not the same as everybody else. I know you know that, but like most people come on the show and they say, yeah, I wake up every day, I time block, I work out, they're just robotic. And it works, like the miracle morning works for people. And some of that stuff works. And you just said, you admitted, I mean, here you are, leader of a main organization, and you say you're a figurehead, but you're not. I mean, here you are at the top of this organizational chart, and you just said to me, I'm not an avid reader, and I appreciate you just being a real dude, successful, real guy. And that's what I like about you. And you've made a lot of impact on a lot of people, and certainly Remax has, and you're carrying the torch for Dave and Gail, who've meant a lot to us. But I wanted to ask you something as we end the show here, and we could talk for another hour, or at least I could. I name this podcast "Rise Up in Real Estate," and I had some people say, "Are you trying to start a revolution?" And I'm like, well, maybe, but that's a sensitive word in our world today. But I wanted to get to what people do on a regular basis to make them extraordinary. Like, what is it about Nick Bailey that you do on a regular basis that helps you rise above the mediocrity that's in the world? I mean, you don't spend a lot of time in mediocrity because of where you are in your life, but the world's pretty plain. And is there something you do to stay sharp, stay above, stay rised up, if that's a word?
Wow. Deep question. This shouldn't be called Rise Up. This should be Deep Thoughts. Tadful.
Yeah. My podcast ended up in the self-help section, believe it or not. So here you have it.
Well, I already feel better after this. And I'm the interviewee. Oh, that's a good one. You know what I think for me, and I know it's changed my life, especially from my upbringing now to be leading a world organization, is one, it's for me, it's the speed at which I move. And I almost think it's a contest throughout the day. And my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour all the time. So that, I know that makes me pretty unique. But I think for me, it's been my general, this is not a cliche, my curiosity of people, especially with different backgrounds that are from different areas. And I grew up in a world that there was much smaller thinking, that there wasn't as much openness with people that were different. And I stood out from that. I was different, and so was my wife's family in that way. And so I think for me, that's something that has been just a complete game changer for me, is the ability to travel to other countries, other cultures, try other things. I did a zip line, hung from a wire and came down to the stage. And then I decided to use my flight suit again. So I used it and jumped out of an airplane to arrive at the company picnic this summer. So I think it's just trying to have that adventure and open mentality to meeting new people and new things, but don't only do it once. Try it to make sure you're doing it all the time. And I think what I've taken away from people that are different than me, and I've just add that to the Nick Rolodex of learning, because I'm just wildly curious about people. And I ask a lot of questions. I try to study them. I try to guess about them. And I know that's just made a huge difference, not only in what I do for a living, but my personal outlook too. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think it's an openness to explore. Just the openness is what I get from that, is that you're just ready you're ready for the next opportunity, and you're always going to be ready for it. You're open to it. You're aware. I love that your mind runs that way. I'm in South Carolina, but mine runs probably a little slower than yours because I'm in South Carolina.
Nah, I don't think that
I'm the
counts.
same way. I'm always thinking that way, and I think connecting to humans is what we were created to do anyway. I mean, why would we both be able to talk or emote or relate if we're not supposed to connect in that way? So I think that's excellent. Nick, I just want to say from a perspective, like everybody on the show probably knows this, but as a franchise owner, a few of them, with an organization like Remax, I just want to say to you that I have the utmost respect. I like following your lead. I appreciate, this is my opinion, I appreciate what you stand for. I appreciate how you lead us, and not in the easiest of times. I think you're carrying the torch in the right way, and I look forward to seeing you at the Premier Broker Summit in a few weeks. I can't wait to fly out there.
Well, you deserve to be there because obviously you and Mandy worked very, very hard, and are top people for us. Big cheerleaders. You take good care of your agents to make sure that they're successful, and so it's not by accident that you're coming to that event.
No, I'm excited. I can't find out what airport to fly into, but I'm coming. I don't care where. We might have to fly into, Los Angeles and drive over or something, but we're looking forward to it. So
we'll have a good time.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Nick. I appreciate it very much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Rise Up Nation, this is a gem. Listen to it again. There's some things in there that you need to apply to your life. Thanks, Nick, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it as well.
Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.